Hi, and welcome to our program. Today we are visiting Museum Overtachi and its new premises. So follow me for a tour around the special exhibition, Body Ideals, Oppression and Liberation. And you clearly have an interest in this topic. Was it the reason why you decided to get involved with this exhibition?
I was actually part of it very much from the start, because I was technically working at Overtachi as a guide, like a tour guide thingy, but I hadn't actually done any tours.
Okay.
I was like, with school and I have anxieties, so for me it was quite a build up to having to perform in that sense.
Yeah.
And I'd actually written to Animated and been like, I feel like I'm wasting your time. I don't want you to have me on retainer when I'm not actually doing the thing I'm supposed to be doing. And she was like, well, would you like to be part of this new thing called Youth Ambassador? I was like,
that sounds interesting.
That sounds great. Love that.
Yeah.
Because obviously I study art history, so for me that was like, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to be part of something different. It wasn't for me to give tours to new people all the time. The other youth ambassadors are great at it. I think Jonas, the male one, he's a tour guide. Started off like that, and that's how he got into it as well. And I don't know if Embla and Marie gives tours. I don't think they do, but we all got there in different ways, but we were all asked to be a part of it. And the second she asked me about it, because we didn't even have a theme, we didn't have anything, she was just like, you want to be a part of this initiative? We don't know what it is yet. Great. Looks great on the CV.
Yes.
And then we were just given free hands to do whatever we wanted, which was insane, because no one gets to do that.
Yeah. It's an amazing opportunity.
I know. I was sitting there like, this is going to look so great on my CV. And then we all sat down and met each other for the first time. First meeting was over Zoom. Terrible.
Yeah.
But when we sat down, the four of us, and started talking about subjects, Marie was actually the one that suggested to have something about body ideals and eating disorders and that. And I jumped straight on that, because I was like, well, girl, same. We've had a lot of the same experiences, or at least a lot of the same feelings. And the other two were like, we've never had any of that close to us, but we want to do it too, because it's still important. It doesn't matter that we've not suffered from the same things that you do. We want to support that we talk about this, because it's so important.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to talk about it, because people close to us might have had it or suffered with it and that. So I think it was just, it kind of naturally happened.
Yeah.
Marie suggested it, we were all on board, and then it just developed from there. I had no idea what I was getting into at the time, but it's just been a great experience and been great to be able to be a part of starting this conversation.
Yeah. And we were talking before that it was more than 6 months work probably. How was it like to see the exhibition at the end?
It was insane. Like when we sat around a table at the old museum at Katrinebjerg talking about how it could be shaped and ideas, and not having any idea how much influence we were supposed to have or not have. It's been a long long process of figuring out what our role was in it as well, because they didn't know and we didn't know. Then we were allowed to do whatever we wanted, and then they couldn't do it because they were a museum. We were like, why did we get free hands then? You didn't, but we wanted you to be free. And it was very back and forth and figuring it out, and it was at times a very frustrating process.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We sat up here picking out the pieces that we wanted for the exhibition. That was great. It was so much fun. We got to decide whatever we wanted and be a part of the entire process. And the next time we were deciding where the different pieces went, and that was so much fun as well. Got free hands. Next time we arrived, they were like, oh, but we've changed everything. Oh, okay, so we have to do it all over again. Had a very long meeting about how frustrating that part of the process was. But part of me was like, this is never going to happen. We're in a building in the middle of nowhere. No one's going to see this exhibition. Is it even going to happen? There's Corona. Everything's going to be terrible. And then we got there the day of the opening and saw everything. And I was like, oh God, this does look better than what we had planned. But it was just insane walking in here and seeing months of planning and hard work and selection and frustration and fights. And pretty sure I raised my voice at Animate at some point. That was not fair of me, but so much work, so much hard work. Like, we're volunteers, we don't get paid for this. We spent so many hours on this.
Yeah. And
seeing this product that looks like it's a real exhibition. It's not just here kids, do whatever you want. It's a real exhibition. And walking in knowing I've been a part of this was insane. I got really emotional as well. It's like, this works. This makes me think. It's going to make everyone else think as well. We have a shot at actually starting a conversation.
Yeah.
That was the greatest feeling ever.
How was the opening for you then? Like, the feeling of the day, like the feedback of the people, how was it?
It was so weird. Like, we had 2 opening days. We had a VIP one where like the press, politicians, like different, like, and the board and that came, and that was great. There was a lot of people, not like completely full, but we had to do a speech, went perfectly well. Had a glass of wine, talked to the artists that were here as well, talked a bit to different people. Very, very classical museum opening, but it felt weird to be the one having to talk to people, because I'm usually the one standing about listening to when an artist talks, but I was the one people went up and wanted to talk to. But on the second opening day, that was like the general public, where my friends came and everyone else's friends were here, and family, and the artist has brought their family as well. So there was just a lot of people. I fucked up my speech. Sorry, I swore again. Like, I messed up and I forgot everything I had to say in my speech because I was that nervous because there's so many people, and I was so excited about everyone seeing it and being a part of it, and how are they going to react, and I talked a lot to the artists and my friends and that, and the general response was so positive. There's so many of the artists that came up to us and were like, I love the way that my piece gets to speak in this conversation. And we saw people writing both on the negative one and the positive one, and engaging in it, watching the videos, flipping through the book, and just engaging in it for a long time. Like, people were there. We were open for 2 hours, and by the time I left, not everyone was gone, and that was 10 minutes before closing time. And people were just talking constantly. Everyone was engaged in conversation at all times. And that was exactly what we wanted. We wanted people to talk about what they were seeing and how they were feeling. And that was just exactly what was happening. And it was just, perfect. It was perfect in the sense. Obviously, the circumstances of the rest of the time haven't been perfect. And COVID, the greatness of it all. So not a lot of people have seen it since. But the reaction on the opening night was enough for me. Just knowing that it did what it was supposed to do. Overhearing some of the conversations, being like, oh, this makes me uncomfortable, or that's really beautiful, or this really makes me think, and this reminds me of that. And it was just doing what it was supposed to be doing. And I hope it's left a mark with at least like some people.
I'm sure it did.
If they mention it to someone else, then we've already started the conversation on a wider scale.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, and for the whole tour and for the conversation.
Of course.
I hope we meet again.
I hope so too.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. So why did the Museum Overtossi decided to have this exhibition, The Body Ideals, Oppression and Liberation?
The museum has wanted for many years to do something for and with young people. Not many young people go to museums, and we were discussing on how to make the museum a better place to be young people. How can it be interesting? So we invited these young people to talk and discussed what could be interesting, what do you think would be interesting to talk about. As a museum, Museum Overtossi has this main idea or to articulate mentally diseases and disorders and problems, and being placed in Aarhus with a lot of young people makes sense to do this and do talking about topics with young people about these about this.
And that's where the youth ambassadors were born from?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And do you plan to continue working like this?
We plan to continue the work with youth ambassadors in somehow. We haven't decided how to do it yet, but we have a lot of ideas going on. So we want to make the museum a more interesting place to go while you're young. So we have a lot of ideas in pipeline.
Okay. And what about the feedback? How was the feedback about this special exhibition so far?
We have had a lot of positive feedback about the exhibition. A lot of people has been touched and moved by all the personal stories that is in the artworks. So it has been mainly a positive feedback.
That's really good. And so this was the first exhibition of kind of a series of pop-up exhibitions during this transition stage for the museum, right? So what can be expected in the next months if the pandemic allows it?
Not of it. All of it is public for the moment, but we have about 3 special exhibitions in pipeline. Next month, the end of February, March, beginning of March, we'll have an exhibition with some young architect students where they're doing stuff about personalities and how can a personality be transmitted into a design of a chair or
that's interesting.
An apartment or something like that. So that will be the next exhibition. We have an exhibition during the summertime, and we have a last exhibition at the end of the year. Okay.
Are they all youth related?
Not all of them are youth related, but yeah, I think it would be interesting to youth people as well as the more mature people.
And maybe you can tell us a little bit more about this transition stage, because the museum is just moving. and how is it going?
Yeah, the museum has been placed in Risskov for many years, and in 2017 the museum moved for the first time and has been placed at Katrinebjerg for 3 years, and now the final movement from Katrinebjerg to the culture house Bunkeren in the northern part of Aarhus is going on. And we expect to reopen the museum in the spring of 2023.
Okay. And maybe you can tell us also a little bit more about the museum and the history of Overtasi.
Yeah, the museum has grown out of the psychiatric hospital, which was placed in Risskov. We have a lot of artworks has been done by the people who has been hospitalized. We have a lot of things from the hospital, and it's both a museum of art and culture history. Overtasi was born in Ebeltoft in 1894, and his ordinary name was Louis Markussen, and when he grew up he started building painter and was educated building painter, and he wanted to go, as many youth people back in the beginning of the 20th century, he wanted to go abroad. So he went to Argentina along with a fellow, and he wanted to live by doing his job, painting and so on, but it didn't went so well, so he was starving for a long time, he was vagabonding, he was in the jungle meeting with some Indians and something, and probably he met some hallucination medicals and got damaged by them. We don't know exactly what happened during his stay in Argentina, but when he went home, he was unstable. He was aggressive, and the family was afraid of him, actually. So they had him hospitalized in Risskov, and there he actually stayed for 56 years of his life. And when he went to the hospital, he found himself placed during all the doctors and stuff, and the doctors was over doctors and over nurses and everything, and he think he might be the over lunatic. So Overtasi is actually a transition of the Danish word overtosse. So he took that name and looked at himself and in another way.
Yeah, and he was also identifying as a woman for some years.
Yeah,
and then he changed his mind.
Yeah, he did. In the beginning of the 50s, he wanted to be a woman. It was a problem to him being a man, watching women having all his desires and things like that. It didn't fit in the hospital world. So he thought that maybe if I were a woman, it would be more simple. So he did this change, made himself a woman. He applied for the medical...
like surgery?
Yeah, exactly, but was turned down several times. But that didn't stop him, so he made his own surgery, and finally got the real surgery in the end of the 50s. And he lived like a woman, dressed like a woman, his hair was like mine, actually. and that went on from the 50s to the 70s. And then he went back to be a man again. And that's why when we talk about him at the museum, we always use the pronoun him or his and so on.
Yeah, that's really interesting story. And it also makes sense, like it's all related.
Well, good sense, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
that was it for today. Thank you so much for staying with us. We hope you enjoyed this program as much as we did. See you next time.
Vidste du, at de fleste ulykker i kryds kunne undgås, hvis vi bruger bare 2 sekunder mere på at orientere os? Men hvad skal der til, for at vi husker det? Skal vi se en ulykke? Skal vi se blod? Eller skal vi bare se det på de sociale medier?
Er du der? Er du der? Kom, hallo?
Skal vi skrue op for dramaet? Måske vi skal bruge en
Dyb og sexet stemme.
Eller skal vi vise død? Skal vi bruge humor?
Skal man bruge 2 sekunder, hvis man er på en ethjulet cykel?
Eller se, hvordan det påvirker familien? Vi kan også bare vise, hvordan det kan ende. Så hvad skal der til, for at du orienterer dig 2 sekunder mere i krydset?
Kunne du tænke dig at lave dit eget radioprogram? Kunne du tænke dig at lave dit eget radioprogram? Kunne du tænke dig at lave dit eget radioprogram? Kunne du tænke dig at lave dit eget radioprogram? Bliv frivillig radiovært i Radiohuset Aarhus.
Ungdomsradio. 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 Ungdomsradio.